All right. So the Yankees destroyed the A's 12-2 in a Mother's Day series finale, running out Yarborough as an opener, who ends up going, Jake, 5 full innings. Who knew, right? Against his former Yankee, Luis Severino. We saw Ben Rice grand slam, which I called, by the way, Jake. I did call that. We're going to get to that later in the show.
The home run, not the grand slam. That would have been wild.
I didn't call the grand slam. If I did, I mean, that'd be crazy. But anyway, Paul Goldschmidt, 3 extra base hits, Dominguez and Volpe, multiple knocks apiece today. And somehow, literally none of that mattered. And yet, on any other day, we probably care about it. Aaron Judge was 4 for 5 today. Again, with 3 singles, a double, diving catch in right field. His numbers, Jake, at this point, have ballooned. That's the story.
They have.
His batting average, 409. Probably won't hit 400, given the emphasis on pitching now. Everyone's throwing 100. Everyone's got crazy spin, all the breaking stuff, the way he's pitched. He's got 14 homers anyways, 39 ribbies. His ops, 1274. It's sick. The difference between, by the way, I wanted to bring up this stat before as we kick this off. The difference between Aaron Judge's ops and the second most productive offensive bat the Yankees even have, and we're getting elite numbers from this guy, and Paul Goldschmidt, his ops being 898, the difference there is 375. That difference between Judge and Goldschmidt is the same difference between Goldschmidt and last year's version of DJ LeMahieu, whose ops was 527. So you can literally replace 99 with any player in Major League Baseball of your choice. Bobby Witt Jr., Ohtani, Acuna Jr., any year of Acuna, by the way, pre-injury or not, and it's significantly less production. And the snag here that everyone's going to mention about being the greatest Yankee of all time is postseason production. Can you perform in October? But my hesitancy with that point is that a lot of folks mention Barry Bonds in the greatest of all time, at least greatest hitter of all time conversation. And yet we've mentioned his postseason numbers. They're not great. They're not putrid, but they're not very good either. Certainly not up to his standards. So Jake, punting this off to you, because I want to know what you think about this player, and then certainly I'll offer my opinion, separately. This player is reaching into the territory where his job is to essentially wreak havoc in the regular season. And then when you get to October, you do it then. Aaron Judge is a problem if the opposing team decides to pitch to him. It just doesn't work. So what are we looking at with this player? Because I think Aaron Judge, a few more seasons of this, we could be talking about one of the greatest Yankees of all time, if not the greatest hitter that's ever played for this franchise.
Yeah, so I think, of course, we've mentioned this before to our audience before everybody gets riled up because, Aaron Judge, the greatest Yankee ever, he hasn't won in October yet. I understand that's what's going to be said, but This is a prompt. We are discussing this. It is not clickbait because this is the main topic at hand. Gary, I don't think Aaron Judge, I would not have any issue if anybody wanted to say Aaron Judge is the greatest Yankee of all time already. Would not have an issue with it. But I don't necessarily feel like he is yet. I feel like he's on that path, to your point. He's probably.
What do you need to see, by the way?
Well, I think October definitely I need to see. I do.
Okay, so
because what
do you think about the Bonds thing? Because Bonds didn't hit either. And yet there's so many players that played for the Yankees that dominated. Like you brought up Jeter. We bring up Ruth. We bring up Gehrig. We bring up Mantle. The names go on, and yet there are a lot of people who put Bonds in front of some of these names all time. What's the difference here? Because I do want you to explain that to me.
Well, yeah, I think the big thing when you look at, say, last year's World Series team as opposed to, 96 or whatever, 96 had guys that may not have been as big in names as some of the guys on this Yankees roster this past year. But I think it resembles kind of what being a Yankee means. And in the postseason, it has mattered. And Judge, while he stepped up in some moments, he had a huge home run, all of it, we know that. He has not done what a Jeter did, what a lot of these other guys did, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and DiMaggio and so forth. And I just feel like that's really the missing piece. That's it for me. Now, I don't agree that should be held against him as if, because he can't do anything about it now. We just talked about that. I'm not going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. But I'm just saying that is what he's missing. If he were to have a postseason, I think one postseason does it. If he this year were to hit like 284, but like his slugging is in the 900s, thousands, or not slugging, but OPS, who cares about the average? Like,
so you're
really
talking about a Giancarlo Stanton October that we saw, because Giancarlo, and we're only going to talk about him for a moment here.
Yeah.
He had an electrifying postseason, especially during that COVID postseason in 2020, where he was going to break the all-time home run record in October. It was historic, right? But the thing with Judge here in this situation feels a lot like the Bill Russell, Michael Jordan conversation, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant conversation, and where it's never quite enough. Because we have to remember, I think most people in the chat, regardless of which side you're on with this conversation, there are a lot of people who are going to say, well, there are Yankees who have won 4, 5, 6 titles, and they performed in a lot of those, if not all of them. They were a key contributor for a lot of those. So if Aaron Judge has one nuclear postseason, is he suddenly ahead of these players, or does he have to go another 6 or 7 electrifying postseasons for that conversation to be opened up? Because one thing I will say, there aren't any players from the past, not one, especially in the era of pitching, because that's what this is, that have his numbers in the regular season. So he edges them in ways that they don't edge him in. And yet we don't hold it against those players. We just hold October on this pedestal. So mind you, I right now don't think Aaron Judge is the greatest Yankee of all time.
I don't
for the reason that you've mentioned. I do think to some degree he's going to have to show something in October, but I don't think he's as far off as people lead it to be. I don't look at a Derek Jeter and say, well, he had 200 postseason hits. He's just going to Aaron Judge is going to retire, never being a better player than him, because I didn't go to the yard feeling that Derek Jeter was the best player on the field in like 04, okay? And he was still in his prime. There were better players on that roster. There just was. So Alex Rodriguez being one of them, okay? So my thing is that Aaron Judge, to your point, he's got to show a heartbeat in October. You can't do nothing in October and then be past these players that the Yankees have in their history. But I don't think he's got to count 5 titles either to eclipse
I don't even
these guys.
think, Gary, and this is going to be very controversial, I don't think he needs a World Series ring to be considered the greatest ever. If he shows and he puts in his weight in the postseason, that's the only thing he's missing, Gary. I think people forgot. We talked about last year. Aaron Judge was a below average center fielder defensively. He was. But look at him in right field. Seriously, I actually think his defense, when it's all said and done, is going to be underrated when it's all said and done. Because I think that moment that he played in center field, I think people are constantly going to show, the Aaron Judge haters and Yankee haters are going to show when he dropped the fly ball against the Dodgers. But, I mean, this guy's above average right fielder. I'm not saying he is the greatest thing ever, but you watch the plays he makes, and it's funny, they're not really talked about on the level of some other people. If he robs a home run, that might get some press, but you're not really going to see a ton. That diving catch today was incredibly impressive, and you're not going to see anybody talk about it tomorrow. And
he's not going to be the GOAT because he made a diving catch.
Exactly.
Barry Bonds was not a good defender at all. Did he have to? He didn't hit. So Barry Bonds
doesn't even play the field, and people are always saying he's better.
Barry Bonds was not a good defender at all. He wasn't. Had a noodle for an arm, and he's had that since college. He never was a good defender. Everyone talks about him being the GOAT, and not everybody, but a lot. A lot of folks think this is the best player we've ever seen. Chipper Jones thinks it. I just heard him say it yesterday. Barry Bonds is the best player. And by the way, don't argue with Chipper Jones. He's the one who showed up to the field and said, that guy right there is the best player I have ever witnessed with my bare eyes. Ever. There's nobody who can touch him. And yet, no one came to the field to watch Barry field a baseball. And his postseason numbers weren't even good, let alone great. So I think certain players from the past, we just sort of sweep things under the rug and say, oh, well, who cares if he didn't play in October? Did you watch him hit 73 homers? He hit 370. He walked over 200 times. We sort of mentioned what they were doing in the regular season over a long period of time. So again, guys, I'm not on the side of the fence that Aaron Judge is the greatest Yankee of all time. I'm just not. But I think the door is open for that to happen. I do, because I don't want people to be in a situation where there's nothing Aaron Judge can do in October or during the regular season where suddenly he has to just be epic for 4 or 5 seasons in a row in October just to open this door. I don't think that's fair to him.
So a couple things. One, I do want to push back a little bit on Barry Bonds because I think he was a great defender.
You do?
He was, yeah. I mean, he won a ton of Gold Gloves.
I don't think that matters at all. Derek Jeter won a total Gold Gloves. I don't think he was a.
I thought he was a good defender.
Derek Jeter, I thought, was just okay at defense. I thought where he made his impact was as a table setter offensively. I personally never saw Derek Jeter as a great defender. I just didn't.
I like Bonds. I think I like Bonds as the 5-tool player. I mean, I think the one guy that I really feel like could have been better, because I do believe Bonds is the GOAT. I do. But the one guy I think that would have outdone him, and this is where staying healthy comes into play, but also, he didn't take steroids. Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
If Ken Griffey Jr. took steroids, I think he probably lasts longer. And I think he probably ends up with better stats, because I think Ken Griffey Jr. was the most talented baseball player of his generation, maybe ever. My thing with Judge is that it's weird, right? Because, we're talking about it from a standpoint, is Judge the greatest Yankee ever? And when I hear greatest Yankee, I don't necessarily think the most talented, because I think Judge is the most talented hitter the Yankees have ever had. I do. But as far as greatest Yankee, I do think postseason comes into play with that. That's the thing. Like when I'm talking about the greatest player, or if I'm talking about the best player, the guy who is the most talented, he's the best player on the field ever, then I think it's Bonds. But if I'm talking about, the greatest player, it's kind of different, right? I don't know why, but I always kind of viewed greatest. It's why the GOAT conversation's always been kind of weird to me. Because
one's
I feel
legacy and one's talent. So
and
you can look at a player and be like, well, he's jumping from the free throw line and he hits threes, but this other player is accomplished. And part of being a great Yankee, I think to your point here, is that you have to be accomplished when we, for the most part as Yankees fans, we care about it more, which is in October. Which is not really the same thing for these other franchises. Like winning for the Giants is super important, but people don't look at the San Francisco Giants and just think, 27 titles. Oh, they're just waiting for their next title. When are they going to do that? No, people just don't really look at it. They're looking at division titles. How do we get out of the NL West? That's what they're looking at. We look at our sites or somewhere else. Mark with the super. Mark, thank you so much. I want to make sure we catch up on these.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Mark says, just got here. I wanted to say absolutely love Judge and think he's a beast. But until he wins, at least maybe 2, it'll take even 3 championships. There's no discussion here. So it seems Mark, and which is totally fair, is viewing this as a legacy conversation. To be the greatest Yankee of all time, it's not about talent. It's also about this team concept that you have to win, which especially, Jake, in this sport, I will add, I think the individual has less to do with the end result than maybe any other sport.
100%. That's my issue with rings. That's actually a big issue why, when people talk about rings with football, if you want to give Tom Brady his props for having 7, great. But I'm not taking away from Dan Marino for not having any rings. And in the NBA, though, when you're talking about there are 5 guys on your team that could be on the floor at the same time,
right?
I think you can make more of an argument towards the ring argument. I do. Baseball is ridiculous. Okay? Absolutely ridiculous. When people say, well, Ohtani has a ring. Okay, Yamamoto has a ring. He was in the league for 1 year and he got a ring.
Did Ohtani become more great, though, when he went to the Dodgers, right? Mm-hmm. He joined the best team in baseball. They were already the best team in Major League Baseball.
Yes.
And mind you, I'm not saying this title was easy because they never are, not in this sport. But to leave the Angels, where Ohtani was a multiple-time MVP, he was ridiculous, right? Putting up insane numbers on the mound, insane numbers offensively, and he was just a unanimous winner MVP. And yet, the Angels were not even sniffing October. They weren't even close. They were a 500 baseball team, and everyone just sort of agrees, Well, what are you going to blame him for? The Angels stink. They're horrible.
And you can't
we
have
all
it
just
both
agree.
ways.
You can't. So all of a sudden he leaves the team. He joins the Dodgers. He wins a title. And then now all of a sudden he's one ring closer to this whole like Mantle conversation. That's why I'm hesitant about this whole championship thing. Because I want to get to a couple super chats here from Jared Hood. Jared, thank you so much for supporting the channel with the 5. No comment, but he does have a comment here. He says, you guys are crazy. He has 16 postseason home runs with 34 RBIs. It's not like he doesn't perform. He has not had a solid team around him until last year. What do you think about this, Jake? Because there are some people who feel like these Yankees teams have been somewhat overrated coming in October. I sort of disagree. I think Aaron Judge has underperformed given his standards in October. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you just look at the splits, right? I mean, when you look at the AL playoffs, this is a guy who essentially in the wild card, he had a blistering 2018, right? 421, right. 1400 OPS. And the year prior, 2017, batted 188, but he had an 816 OPS because he had 4 home runs. Aside from that, though, this is a career postseason 205 hitter with a 768 OPS. He has a 768 OPS because most 205 hitters don't have the power he has. So he's still capable of letting it go. And that's my issue, is that I think while he focuses so much on hitting that big home run, I think it takes away from the greatness that he has as a pure hitter. And I think we've seen that this year. This game, to me, today, shows you the strides he's made as a pure hitter, Gary. I'm sure he wants that first at-bat back. He got struck out by Severino. But 4 for 5? And we're talking now, he's in territory where his average doesn't go up unless he's going to get at least 3 hits. That's insane.
I don't see any world. I don't see any world where he hits 4. I don't think any player will
it hasn't
ever
happened
hit 400.
since, the 40s?
Yeah,
That's why.
And the average fastball today, we've mentioned the difference between the pitching in, say, 1975 and 2025. I mean, it's not even close. And the difference between the game in 2008 to today it's not even recognizable. You see guys throwing 91, 88, 89 in games. You don't see that today unless a guy's like dropping down sidearm. So hitting seems to be harder today. And we're not going to use this as an excuse. Dave with the super. Dave, thank you so much for the super with the 20. Says, what's funny about this topic on Judge is people will flinch at the greatest Yankee of all time, but it's on the table easily that he might be the greatest player of the last 40 years. Don't compare amongst eras. And I would agree. You always hate to compare amongst eras. And where I'm at with this Judge situation is that I want to make the expectations more realistic and that the team winning can't just be how we decide this. I want this to be more of a conversation of what is it we're seeing on the field. And to some degree, Jake, I completely agree with you. Judge is going to have to cement himself in October. Whether we win or not, he's going to have to be the best player on the field when it matters because he is way better than any player that touches the field on either side. So he's going to have to show that when it matters. But is he going to have to count 5 championships for me to turn around and say, yeah, he's better than Mantle? I don't think so.
I think you and I are very aligned on that. And I understand the defense to Judge, and trust me, like I defend Judge because I'm so tired of people who are pro Ohtani and can't just enjoy both players. They have to bring up his drop pop fly, and they have to bring up his postseason. Like Ohtani was useless in the World Series. I don't care about the injury. He was useless. Okay? And it bothers me because if Judge just joined the Dodgers like Ohtani, and he was like, yeah, if I can't beat him, join him, right? If he just did it like Ohtani, well, don't you think he has a ring by now? Like, probably, do you really think Judge doesn't help the Dodgers out? Do you, like, really? He chose to stick with the Yankees. I'm not hating on Ohtani for not going back to the Angels. The Angels had no direction. But to some point or another, you have to look at what's actually happening. These two are both great, but Ohtani still is not pitching, okay? This constant comparison between the two, I just think it's ridiculous. Judge is a better hitter, and he plays the field. Ohtani doesn't play the field even when he's pitching, right? So that's the thing. At no point does Ohtani play the field. And you can't sit here and tell me how defense doesn't matter when the reason why the Dodgers beat the Yankees in that World Series was because of defense. And then tell me that, well, it doesn't matter that Ohtani doesn't play defense. It does matter. You're taking away an entire... Omar Vizquel is useless in your eyes then. The greatest defensive shortstop ever. Oh, he plays defense, so who cares?
Right. Can I ask you a question about the defense, about the winning, right? Because winning seems to be... That's the consensus here. Yeah. Winning. What do you do when it's time to win? But my question here, if Garrett Cole covers first base, let's just say, right? We could just change history. That 5-run inning doesn't happen, right?
No.
And that's not how sports work. It's cement. It's done.
Yeah.
But if suddenly the Yankees just did what they were supposed to do, Aaron Judge wasn't the only guy who made a huge mistake in that inning.
No.
If the Yankees, let's just say, change the outcome of that inning and then win, but Aaron Judge performs like he was performing last October, which wasn't great. It was just okay. Given his standards, it was probably below average. But we win a championship. Is now Aaron Judge's greatness, has it taken a step up in your eyes? I don't think so. I think Aaron Judge is at some point or another, he's going to have to show up, be better in October, doesn't have to match up to what guys in the past did. I just don't think that's fair. I really don't. Matthew with the super. I'm going to get to these supers out of order because I do want to advance into the game itself because I thought this was a great game. I mean, wow.
They needed today.
They really needed today.
But they did.
I mean, I didn't expect to see Matzik again, but certainly I'll welcome it. But anyway,
well,
Matthew.
In that context, yes.
I know. He was a victory cigar, thankfully. Matthew with the super. Thank you so much, Matthew with the 10. Says, I think you'll see a different Judge in the playoffs. Jake, I know for a fact you agree with this. I think you saw how bad his ozone swing was compared to the regular season. So, I mean, Judge is one of the best at making adjustments. I wouldn't say his adjustments in October, he doesn't seem self-aware in October about what it is he needs to be trying to do. And to agree here on the conclusion about the adjustments, we're talking about the adjustments of the regular season. If a team decides, okay, we want to pitch him a certain way, we want to pitch him in on his hands, he has a better understanding and a concept of how he's going to go about beating whatever it is you're throwing at him. That is true. But like everyone is echoing in the comments, and part of the reason why there are going to be a lot of people who are like, he is not the greatest Yankee, is because those adjustments have not yet translated to October. He's going to have his Alex Rodriguez 2009 postseason moment. That means one. Not one swing, not one walk-off in the World Series. No, he needs to have accumulation of dominant postseason performance in one postseason run. If he can do that, I think we can genuinely pop on this broadcast and say Aaron Judge is the greatest Yankee of all time, but that doesn't come without October success. Not counting rings, but success still has to show up.
Yeah, and it's funny, I went back and I took I really looked at this World Series the other day, and I was actually just talking about this with my father. Anthony Volpe had a really good series, and I feel like I didn't really give him enough credit for it. He had an OPS over 800, something that he never does. Yeah, he hit in the 280s, and he had a huge home run. And I thought Judge's last two games, he really emerged. And that's the sad thing is that, you remember it as just an ultra collapse, but I feel like Dodgers fans remember it so differently. Like, they dominated the game. They won by a lot of runs. No, you had to put in your starting pitcher as your closer at the end of that game.
There was a walk-off in Game 1 of the World Series. It was a walk-off grand slam. Everyone
I will always stand by this, and I mean no disrespect, but this Dodger team was nowhere near the level of some of the other teams in the past that won the World Series. And I will say the same thing about the Yankee team. I didn't think either team was like your prototypical World Series champion.
I agree with you. Their pitching was lackluster. That starting pitching was not good.
That's what bothers Yankee fans so much.
Yeah.
It's not that they lost. It's that they lost on one swing when they were They were winning 3-2. They lost on one swing, end of the game.
Yep.
Then they lose 4-2 in a game that they felt like they were literally just treading in quicksand.
And then they lose 4-2
again.
Horrible.
And then the only blowout in this entire series, the Yankees just belt to ass. And you're thinking, there's no way they're going to do it. But if any team was going to do it, well, why not the team that has Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and Giancarlo Stanton? Because at some point, Aaron Judge has to step up. And by the way, in that game, he did. And then the next game, he shows up and he has two out of 3. You know, he goes 2 for 3 in that game and drives in some runs. And it's just, it's frustrating because the winners, it's no different than history, right? You know, the winners of the battle, they're the last people standing. They get to write the history.
Oh, doesn't it drive you nuts?
It's so frustrating.
Because the point is, people just remember as the Dodgers just walloping their way through October. And I've mentioned before, the Padres should have beaten them. And that's not just my opinion. That's the opinion of Mookie Betts on his own podcast. Yeah, that team was way better than us. And they just couldn't score a run. They ended up blowing it. But then we show up, get to the World Series. We felt like we had the better team. We had an ailing pitching. Like, our staff was ailing. We weren't healthy. And the guy in Jack Flaherty, who they traded for midseason, ended up being like one of their 2 arms they could rely on, literally. And Buehler had to come out of the bullpen. So
exactly. That's
there
my
was
point.
Yeah. So they were not in a great shape either. It wasn't. The Dodgers Yankees was viewed as like, oh, this is a great matchup, but the play wasn't as great. It didn't lead up to it. It just didn't. Dave with the super, and then I want to get to this game. Dave says, I mean, because Judge doesn't have a supporting cast is why we always shame Cash and Hal for wasting Judge and Cole's prime. Now, this I somewhat agree with. We always place the blame on, why didn't you go get a Harper? Why didn't you go get a Machado? Why didn't Seager? Why didn't any of these guys come through the door? You thought that the Yankees should just operate without these guys. You didn't even go deep into negotiation for them. And yet, when we look at it, when it's all said and done, after a ringless decade, we didn't win once. We attended 1 World Series. And then we're going to turn around and be like, yeah, Judge would be greater if they were winning. So that's his fault. Because that's what we're saying. That's literally what we're saying. It's either the GM's fault or it's Judge's fault. And so I just want people to be consistent with who we're criticizing in this moment, because to some degree, you have to admit, Brian Cashman is somewhat responsible for how some of these rosters have turned out.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I will say, you know, it's almost like a blessing and a curse to be as good as you are, because Judge is insane. And because he is insane throughout the regular season, now people are expecting those insane numbers to be like doubled the way some people talk about Judge. Like, oh, why is he hitting 600 in the postseason? It's no different. Well, it is different. And I think the approach has gotten a lot better. I think he's learned from being on the grandest stage. He never wants to experience that again. I don't think any of these guys do. That's why, you know, when you lose in the championship, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it absolutely destroys franchises, but sometimes it really makes them. It builds them back up. And we've seen Judge, you know, change some things, but at the same time, he's had moments in the postseason where he's looked good. I think the reason why it is so obvious is because of the crazy expectations he has put on himself, and that's just the reality of it. And then it doesn't help when you have Juan Soto, who steps up in every single moment, and you have Giancarlo Stanton, who people wanted off the roster, and I'll be the first one to tell you I wanted him DFA'd at the beginning of the year. Remember?
Same.
Like, I wouldn't go that far, but you did say I wouldn't go that far. But then later on, you're like, okay,
I wanted him off the roster. I think the way I verbalized it is that his ceiling is such so the Yankees should just leave him on the roster. And then if he gets to October and you don't see that version of what we saw during the COVID season, then Giancarlo's useless. And then as the season went on, he had a strong regular season.
Yeah.
He was streaky as a junior hire's gym shorts, as I mentioned. He did exactly that. He gets to October and carries. He does. It was exactly what Giancarlo did. He's great for all the reasons that our entire chat is saying, no, Judge can't be this player because he didn't play this way. All the players that have been mentioned in our chat as being better than Judge, all of them were doing what Giancarlo was doing. They were showing up, and you said, this is a big moment. I'm nervous. I don't know what's going to happen. I want that guy at the plate. And when we can say Judge is that guy in October, I want him up right now. Remember DJ LeMahieu had a few moments like early in his Yankees career where we're like, yeah, that guy in these Houston series, I think when the game's on the line, I want him up there taking these at-bats. Yeah, Aaron Judge is going to have to get to that point, and he hasn't yet. But certainly he has the talent. He's more talented than all these guys. So I want to get to the game here. Golden Space, and I'll throw that up on the chat. Thank you, Golden. You've been a supporter of this channel for a while now. I want to thank you personally.
Appreciate
with the two, says, shout out Yarborough, because I want to start this conversation with him. Judge is aging like fine wine. Yarborough, I think the writing was on the wall. We expected this start. He was always opening this game. And I believe he has more starts as an opener. I can't remember how they said more innings in relief. There was like more than 3 innings. So long story short, this guy is a reliever, but he can go the length of a starter. He's just always had that.
He's a starter, Gary.
He's a starter.
He is. You know who he is?
Who is he?
I'll tell you who he is. He is Cody Poteet. Not going to get a ton of strikeouts. He's going to get you some length. And, I mean, he got through 5 innings only having 67 pitches thrown. Like, that's exactly what they wanted. Yeah. So, and now they didn't use Weaver. They didn't use Williams. Like, they're ready to go against a Mariners team that offers a tough test with that rotation. But keeping it here for now, Yarborough, he locates, and he generates contact. He pitches to contact, but he doesn't pitch to hard contact. He's getting really weak fly balls. He's getting the soft line drives at your second baseman that like you have all day to plan for. You know, I don't really see the ball jumping off the bat when Yarborough's on the mound. And so I really like the way he pitched. It's just what the doctor ordered. What cannot be thrown out and just completely forgotten about is the way Yerry De Los Santos pitched. Because I was saying you let go of a guy like Yuendris Gomez who can give you the kind of the same output as Yarborough. He could give you 4 or 5 innings, right? He's done it before. Yerry De Los Santos gave you 3 innings today. And then Matzik, the victory cigar, like you said, pitched 1 inning. So they really didn't have to go into like the upper echelon top tier of the bullpen. And that is going to bode well for them on this West Coast series because they finish it out with the Seattle Mariners. And I liked what I saw to Yarborough because I was very skeptical, Gary, coming into this game. And it was the polar opposite. I thought Severino was going to tee off on the Yankees. And I thought Yarborough was going to get teed off on the other side. And that is not what happened. The way the ball has been flying out of this stadium, I think Yarborough deserves extra credit for what he was able to do today.
I agree with that. I said before this game, and we actually still hit the over, by the way, in our Profit X picks.
That's
and we'll
crazy.
get into those at the end.
Yeah.
And yet, it was hot. It's been hot in this series. We expected the ball to fly. You saw some of those reads from Grisham yesterday, right? Bellinger, Dominguez couldn't figure out if the ball was falling in front of him or not. The ball was flying in this series. And to keep the ball in the ballpark, it goes to show you Yarborough was great. He was great. You get weak contact in a series like this, you're going to win. It's just that simple. And Alex Reyes with the super, thank you, Alex, for the 2, says the 2017 Yankees still the best Yankees team in his opinion. I'm assuming he's talking about Aaron Judge lifetime Yankees. I'm certain that's what he's talking about. And I love that team as well. The vibe of the team was great. The camaraderie, right? The chemistry was all there. And then, of course, we had the pitching. So devastating that we didn't win. But
your dad's team is probably the best Yankee team to never win a ring.
To never win a ring, yes. The 2004 Yankees were the best Yankees team to never win. And if they had won a title, they probably could turn around and have a conversation about the 98 Yankees. But obviously you don't win, and then people are like, whoa, the 98 Yankees. Well, winning is what puts you into that greatness conversation, which I think a lot of people agree with. So, yeah, the 2004 Yankees didn't get it done. Eventually they did in 2009. That's great. But, yeah, that 2017 team, obviously we were dealing with the Houston thing. There were a lot of teams. The Dodgers were dealing with it that year as well.
Did you think they were a World Series? I don't think the Yankees, I mean this, and I love the Yankees. I don't think the Yankees have had a pure World Series championship, like prototypical champion.
No,
roster.
that 2017 team The way
That was the
I viewed them,
closest.
I viewed it as almost in a way of like the Philadelphia Eagles, where you get like Nick Foles and
Yeah.
maybe we can go on this magical run. And that's the way it felt. It felt like this Cinderella run that wasn't going to end for some reason. And that's part of the magic of October. You saw some of these teams like the San Francisco Giants in the early 2010s where they had that magical run. You look at it, they don't have the prototypical Marco Scudero, like this guy having humongous
I hated
at
Marco
bats.
Scudero.
Pablo Sandoval. Nobody predicted these guys to take Justin Verlander, the best pitcher in the game, deep 3 times in one game, just putting on a show. That's part of the magic of October. So, yeah, I thought the 27 Yankees team had the best vibe of October throughout the run. But, yeah, I mean, to some degree, the Yankees and Brian Cashman has to put together a team where you look at the roster and you say that roster right there looks like a $300 million roster that I can honestly see winning a championship. I personally haven't seen that in Aaron Judge's tenure outside of maybe 2017.
I just keep thinking of that one Yankees, I don't know, was a 96 with Ventura on it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was batting like 7th and he was hitting like 276. And you're like, what? Like it was
ridiculous.
insane. That lineup was ridiculous. Everybody's hitting 20 plus, 30 plus home runs, hitting for average. I think the worst batter on the team was hitting like 260.
Yeah, this might be the best super chat of all time. Cheeks with the super.
Cheeks.
My favorite account on this YouTube. Of all the people who support us, you guys got to step your names up. This is greatness.
I don't know.
Cheeks
we
with
had
the super.
Aaron Judge as my Pookie or John.
Yeah, that
Carlos
one's
Stanton
good. That's a
guy.
close second, but Cheeks has the cake right now. So
Yeah.
Cheeks with the 2. Thank you, Cheeks. New York Yankees have a shot this year because the rest of the American League is Cheeks, pun intended. And mind you, I
that's
thought
great.
in general, because we're going to bring it back to the game here, if you look at what happened here today, I mentioned Volpe's production. I mentioned Dominguez's production. We got production from Wells, production from Cabrera, obviously Judge, Goldschmidt. So you can look down 1 through 9 and say, oh, Ben Rice, by the way, grand slam. And he's last of the guys I mentioned. The Yankees got production throughout their lineup. So what it tells me, and it's always been my gripe with this roster, regardless of what's happening in the bullpen, regardless of what's happening in the starting rotation, if we have enough depth, we've got to score in October. And you know what really helps you score, Jake, in October? Is having a roster where you can look up at the 7 hitter, and you just mentioned it actually, talking about batting averages and production out of the 7 and 8 spot. Maybe the Yankees need more of that. Heading into October, if the AL is Cheeks, according to Cheeks, and I agree with him, the American League is not good.
No.
The AL East is not good. And the Yankees can capitalize on those facts. But, and here's the biggest but of all time, you still got to play the winner of the National League. There's your catch. So you can make it through the AL all you want to, but if you can't beat the best team in the National League, the team that's hottest from that side, what are we really talking about here?
Well, it's funny you say that because it's like everybody gets on Aaron Judge for the postseason last year. And I seem to remember a certain guy that you and I were very high on. Mm-hmm. I have been very high on him. He had a crazy blistering second half of the season, fell off and never recovered. Austin Wells hit 120. Yep. Then you had Alex Verdugo, who was useless. Anthony Rizzo hit like 260, and we were all like, oh my God, Anthony Rizzo's the savior. And then Jose Trevino. So Austin Wells was bad. Jose Trevino was bad. So really, when you think about it, we focus on Judge because he's the big name, right? But
correct.
It's 26 guys on a roster. And you had Stanton, you had Soto, you had Volpe, and that was really it as far as guys that were hitting. Jazz was awful in the postseason.
Jazz
like
was
188.
putrid. He was terrible.
And his at-bats weren't at all competitive. So you weren't this is why, like, the pitchers, like the Dodgers were so set because these pitchers were running roughshod of the lineup because nobody could actually challenge the lineup. And it's not like their pitchers were dominant. I thought the lineup of the Yankees was so pathetic, the way that they played. And it was frustrating to watch. And going back and seeing it, it's like we're talking about. You have to have a supporting cast. You just do. And what they're missing here is that right now, and I like B-Boss, and I like Peraza, and I like giving the young guys a try, but if you go into the postseason, these guys are not proven at all. And you have guys last year, like a Jazz Chisholm, that did nothing. You have guys like Alex Verdugo that did nothing, like veteran players. So what's going to happen if you send B-Boss up there? So I do think, to your point, there needs to be kind of an emphasis on, yeah, we like the young guys, and we'll give B-Boss a chance. He can go down to AAA and work up, and Peraza is a really good depth piece. That's kind of how I see him right now. Oswaldo had some moments in the postseason and showed a little bit more pop than he's ever shown, which is weird. But
we'll
for the
take
most
it.
part,
Yeah,
yes,
we'll take that.
We'll take it. But do you want Peraza, like when they start in October this year, do you want him to be the starting third baseman of the postseason New York Yankees?
No, I don't. And I think, by the way, Jake, if you look up and Peraza is taking at bats in October, and you look up and you're like, oh, I really want Wells to take an October at bat. Oh, I really want Cabrera, B-Boss, DJ LeMahieu, who everyone's saying he's showing up. You actually broke the news to me before the show.
Yeah,
that
I
people
guess
are
he's going to
expecting
play
him
tomorrow.
to be back. Yeah. Oh, no, he'll be back, and then he'll play. And then there are a lot of those guys. I just mentioned 5 names. And yet, would you want those guys taking an October at bat? Because remember what the other side looks like. The other side.
This is another thing, by the way.
What, Verdugo and Rizzo?
Remember, they like basically benched Verdugo to play Jason Dominguez right before the postseason, and then they're like, yeah, by the way, let's just forget about that. Verdugo's going to play again.
Jason Dominguez put a polo on, and they did not let him sniff the baseball field. They didn't. They didn't let him take not one at-bat.
No.
They didn't let him nothing. They didn't let him do
with
anything.
That. I thought that they should have gotten him some experience, at the very least, use him as a pinch hitter, something along those lines. I also just didn't. I understand the defense. I get that, but he hardly. I don't even think. Did he get a pinch hit appearance? I don't think he did.
So David Lawrence, and I do not remember him taking an at bat, but perhaps he did. I don't remember seeing it because clearly it wasn't in a big enough spot, or it just wasn't often enough to even have it be a storyline. It just wasn't. So my thing, these young players can be used as depth pieces during the regular season, which is technically the spot we're in. But
of course,
when you get into the trade deadline, after you leave the deadline, you as the Yankees need to show up in October and put enough on the field, not that you think have talent, but enough guys on the field that you trust going into October so that you're not just waiting around for Aaron Judge to be used as a life raft, for him to just turn it on and turn into 09 A-Rod. Because let me tell you this, and this is my conclusion here. Shohei Ohtani in the World Series, do you remember what he did? Hardly anything.
Yeah.
He was hurt.
He got hurt. That's all I remember.
He was hurt. Teoscar Hernandez had the big hits against our left-handed arms. You saw it. The big hit in that 5-run inning, right, that we just wet the sheets. Garrett Cole didn't cover first base. You know who got that big hit? It wasn't Shohei Ohtani. And this isn't me knocking Ohtani. It's really not. I'm mentioning the roster depth of guys they trust. It was Freddie Freeman with the 2-out single.
Can you imagine if Judge had Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts as his 1-2 punch?
And to be fair, he's had Giancarlo, who's been incredibly clutch.
Yeah.
Juan Soto, incredibly clutch.
But over the course of a season, now we're talking about something different. Like,
correct.
How many times, and we've already talked about this year, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I think this team is going to work out. I'm not saying they'll win it all, but I think they are going to work out. And today, and they've shown signs, I don't think they've really scratched the surface of what they can be. That said, Gary, how many years did we go into a season? Oh, Yes Network, Yankees baseball. You hear Michael K. You see the lineup, and you're like, we're set. That's the lineup this year. I feel good about it. Maybe you make one or two, like maybe one move, and that's good. This year, they're not set. Like, let's be honest here. They are loaded in a sense. Like, they have a lot of bodies. We talked about this. And in the outfield, they have a surplus. But in the infield, regardless if Jazz was back or not, you don't trust Jazz. You don't trust him in the postseason, and you don't trust him right now. Is he going to turn it around? Who knows? Maybe. But there's not a proven talent at second, at short, or third. Volpe had a good postseason. Volpe hasn't had great regular seasons. He's a good defensive player. I do think people are kind of, turning a blind eye to his late, just booting balls left and right, it seems like. But the point being, Gary, is they don't have a lot of proven talent in the infield aside from Goldschmidt. That's it. That's the only proven guy that they have in the infield right now. So it's interesting. And while starting pitching is a concern, and we've talked about that, right? I think it goes back to what you were saying before the season started. Yeah, they could probably use two bats. That's what you said. And I look at a guy like Brendan Donovan, and I'm like, he could be in play. The guy who's playing for that team as well, and Nolan Arenado, could be in play. You could get creative. God forbid they get creative with Ben Rice. Although, I did just see somebody say Ben Rice is Joe Mauer in the comments section.
I don't think so. I don't think Ben Rice is Joe Mauer, which is okay to not be, because he's just better at certain aspects of the game. Obviously, he's a better overall player. He's playing great behind the plate. Ben Rice caught again today, boys. Next Joe Mauer, don't worry about it. So obviously I'm catching a sarcastic tone at least.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's what it was. But the one thing that is really healthy for this Yankees team, because I want to talk about, because obviously this Yankees team has issues, but I mentioned last episode, there are a ton of teams with issues. There's not one team in our division that you can look at and look at both sides of the ball and not say, they don't have any issues, they've got no holes. The World Series champions of 2024 had a ton of issues. They had 2 starting pitchers on our broadcast in front of 1,200 live viewers. I went on the depth chart for the Dodgers, and I said, here is their list of starting pitchers. Yamamoto, right? We saw Flaherty. And who'd you see after that? Nobody. You saw literally nothing there. And yet, they can go win a World Series title. So if you think the Yankees are going to put a team out there where you're like, they don't have any holes, they just don't, it's not going to happen. It's just not. So
no,
for the Yankees, they don't operate. It's not how they do it. But the Yankees right now are in a moment in the regular season where Ben Rice is in the midst of proving himself that we want to see what his at-bats look like, and we trust him to take those at-bats in October. Jason Dominguez hasn't had nearly long enough of a tenure with the Yankees so far. But if he goes an extended period of time during the regular season, something Volpe didn't do last year, despite having a good October, it was a surprise. Jason Dominguez, if he plays well all of this year, when we head in October, that's another bat you can look at and say, I want to see what his at-bats look like at Yankee Stadium when it's cold out in October. So I say all that to say this. The Yankees right now, in terms of a couple of young players, specifically Rice, specifically Dominguez, the jury's out on Volpe. The jury's out on Wells. But those two, right now the Yankees look like they've got 2 young players that are trying to cement themselves as players we can trust to help Aaron Judge. That matters. It does. Because what it means is the rest of those players, the Volpes, the Wells, the Cabreras, the Vivas, the LeMahieu's, the rotation, those are the guys you can look at in July and say, I need an upgrade. I need an upgrade because I need to trust a player in this position in October, and that is what I'm paying attention to because the Yankees right now are winning enough given the division. They are. I would love them to win more. But by the time you get to October, we're going to forget and flush the regular season, and it's all going to be about how many guys in this lineup do we trust to take an at-bat. And if the answer is more than not, the Yankees probably have a pretty good chance, Jake.
No, I agree with that. And I got to say, I mean, today I thought Paul Goldschmidt, and I mean, Dominguez and Volpe, they had 2 hits, and Judge was fantastic, and Rice had the grand slam. But Paul Goldschmidt is doing something that I just feel like we never get a chance to really talk about because there's always something to talk about with his team. But like, this is somebody that is slugging without hitting home runs. And this is literally what we're talking about when everyone just says, "Oh, you just want the long ball." No, the long ball's nice, but you see what Goldschmidt's doing? He's having just as much success without the long ball.
What's he got? 3 homers?
I mean, he's got 3 homers, but he has almost a 900 OPS. It's insane.
Great.
So he had 3 doubles today, Gary. 3. And, he had 2 RBIs. And by the way, he could have had a triple. I mean, I'll be the first one to say I'm glad they're not playing another game at this cursed ballpark. I hate it. The idea that a ball can get lodged under a fence and then everyone has to be like...
It wasn't lodged. It was just laying there. And he's like, hold on a second.
He's like, hold on. I malfunctioned, so everyone else has to wait for me.
It's lodged, which really means it's in there and I could just reach and grab it. That was just the bounce. It's just laying underneath the wall. And they reviewed it, and technically speaking, they're right. It's lodged. But lodged, in my opinion, is like the ball's in the fence, and I have to use literally a pound of force at all. An ounce of force.
It was lodged the other day with Cody Bellinger. He tried to pull it out, and there was some force.
There was no force at all. As soon as the umpire was like, dead ball, he immediately reaches for the baseball. Go watch the replay. And grabs this ball, and it pops out like
immediately.
Nothing. It was a joke.
And it's just, I mean, and by the way, is Anthony Rizzo getting a triple on that? This is what I mean. Like, Goldschmidt's added an element to this position. When's the last Yankees first baseman that had speed? I'm not saying he's a burner, but this guy can get to third on that. Like, that's not being talked about nearly enough. I feel like he's the most athletic first baseman that I can remember that the Yankees have had. It's crazy. The only one that's even in the discussion is the guy that's not currently starting for them is Ben Rice. I can't think of a Yankee first baseman like that. Teixeira could move. He could get to second. I don't know if he gets to third on that. I thought Teixeira was a good athlete.
He's a great base runner, which you just don't see from players on the corners. No, not at this position. So I guess the question is, do the Yankees... What's happening here? Because the Yankees have to view this as just a 1-year anomaly. You have to look at it this way. Because Paul Goldschmidt, given his output, there are going to be a ton of people who say, how can we get rid of this player? He's 38. He's clearly got stuff left. And I told you, Jake, there's going to be a year, I have no idea which year, it could have been this year, where Paul Goldschmidt's going to show up to the yard, and we've seen it with all-time great players. They look like this, and then all of a sudden, it's just like hospice care, boop, and they just turn straight down into the dirt. And that's the way it works. So there are going to be people who say, I want this player back. I don't care if he's 38. Bring him back. He's turning 39 next year. So what? We saw his output, but then you look at the roster and you say, well, Ben Rice has to play somewhere. So it's so difficult because given what he's doing compared to what we had last year, Rizzo and second half version of Ben Rice, it's so much better. And you see it defensively alone, seeing the defense and just a fielder with athleticism and IQ in combination. We've seen nothing close to it at first base in a long time since Teixeira. So super refreshing. I'm happy to watch it every day. And I don't feel like I have to clench my butt cheeks every time a dribbler goes over to first. I feel like Paul Goldschmidt understands what to do before the ball's hit to him, and it's exciting to watch.
I feel like in a weird way, the Rams fan in me is like, he reminds me of Stafford, and it's like, couldn't Matthew Stafford have come to my team earlier and we'd have had longer?
Sure.
That's how I feel with Goldschmidt. I just wish this guy was a Yankee earlier, and you know what? He could have been. They had an opportunity to go and get him. The Cardinals went and got him. So maybe this is who they were missing. You'll never know, but it is frustrating because when you find a guy like this that can play in pinstripes, that can play in the Bronx, and pretty much puts the weight of the world on his shoulders and is willing to go out there and do that. It doesn't matter if Judge is up next or Judge is on base or whatever. he steps up. And he also is one of those guys that is the furthest thing from a headache. He is just a team guy. Like, you dream about finding players like this in free agency. And the fact they found him at the end of it is insane to me. And he's just such a good fit. And it's like, man, I just wish they got him earlier. I mean, I know that's it's silly, but he's 37. He'll be 38 in September. I am really going to have a hard time. Like, you remember when Alex Verdugo was hitting, he's hitting like 270. I was like, yeah, I just like this player. I'd like to see him brought back. I didn't know he was going to hit like 180 the rest of the year. This guy's not going to hit 180 the rest of the year. He's too good to do that. His approach at the plate, he's so patient, and he basically just sets pitchers up. And any sort, and you notice this, you say it all the time, good hitters are going to hit the mistake pitch. It's just the way it is. But not every time. Goldschmidt very rarely, if ever, misses a mistake pitch. And if the way he sets you up, he always down 0-2, well, you're going to expect him to swing at anything outside the zone. And you get the nibblers out there that'll just be like, oh, yeah, I'll get Goldschmidt to chase. I got him. No, you don't. Goldschmidt's just going to look at that. And now he's got you back to 3-2, where now you have to throw in the zone. And he set you up, and now he's going to have a bases clearing double. And that's the way he works. And it's just, it sucks. But I hope that if he's not brought back next year, Ben Rice is taking notes and he's learning from this guy. Because the way he approaches every at-bat is textbook, Gary. That is the best way to describe him. He's a textbook baseball player.
Yeah, and so the way Aaron Boone described him is he's the best situational hitter on the team. He
without a
essentially doubt walks up to the plate and reads, what in the hell does this team need? What does this group need from me? Is there a guy on second? Do I need to just slap a ball to the right side? Like, I might not be the storyline here, but clearly the guy is hitting behind me. I'm at the top of the lineup. Yeah, maybe me slashing this ball to right field or to the second baseman, I'm forgotten about, but the guy behind me can hit a sac fly, and suddenly you look up at the board and we've got runs up there. You're not just holding your breath that Goldschmidt hits a ball in the gap, which is refreshing. It's something we didn't watch. So Boone's absolutely right. You can see the adjustments on screen. They're obvious. And Jordan Richard with the super with the 2. Thank you, Jordan, for the support. Says, what kind of contract should keep Goldie with the Yankees? And again, you see it right there. People are already projecting, wanting the age 38. I think next year. He'll be 38 this year, later this year. He'll be 39 at some point next year. Now, mind you, he can still be somewhat of this version of a player. It's certainly possible. But due to the roster's construction, I don't think it makes a ton of sense. I just don't. Now, mind you, if Ben Rice is cemented as this platoon bat and he cannot hit left-handed pitching over the long term, then the Yankees can probably say, we don't have another first base option that we love, so we'll bring him back. And if he falls off a cliff, he falls off a cliff. But I guess your answer there, Jordan, is probably going to be, I'm going to prove my value. I had a bad year in St. Louis last year, had a great second half. The Yankees saw that, said, I want second half Paul Goldschmidt that we saw in St. Louis. We've gotten it. It's here. And so now there's going to be a team out there in baseball that gives him maybe not that Christian Walker deal, but it could be 2 years, $30 million. He might get 15 each. And people say, well, this production, I'll give a player $15 million. But the risk there is now you've got a logjam at first base again. And if he falls off a cliff, you're paying $15 million a year to a player to just not play, and then you're going to throw Ben Rice out at first base. So it's a tricky concept, and this is why being general manager is a little harder than people give it credit for, but it's also not as hard as our GMs made it look.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is we keep talking about, the creativeness and moving, Ben Rice potentially to third or whatever. Mm-hmm. But Cheeks brings up a good point. What's only thing that concerns me, if Goldie stays, is that if the Yankees go after Tucker and actually sign him, where would Belly go, seeing as he's probably going to opt back in the way he's playing right now? This is a great point, because now you think about it, it's like, if you want to bring back Trent Grisham after the season, which I think the Yankees will want to do, and you have Jason Dominguez, and you got Aaron Judge, you're running out of room in the outfield. So,
I think Trent Grisham would just be gone. I think that's your answer.
Well, I agree with that, but still, now it's like you're talking about having this guy who's going to be making all this money. Where is Goldie playing if you bring back, or where is Belly playing if you bring back Goldie?
If you bring back Goldschmidt, first base is locked. Everyone agrees.
Yes.
Cody Bellinger is probably opting into that $25 million deal. Okay? It's a 1 year essentially deal for 2026. He opts in. You've got Dominguez, who's trending on the upwards, so that's an outfield spot. Now you've got center field. Dominguez is playing left now. Center field is your only open spot. Judge is not moving to center field. He's going to stay in right field. DH is still tapped out. We still don't have a spot. Ben Rice is there. Stanton is still there. So now you have to wonder, Bellinger literally cannot play first base, which a lot of people said he may do next year. So it's not a problem to bring him on this roster for multiple years. But now he has to play center field. So your answer, Cheeks, is that Grisham would be gone. If you bring back Paul Goldschmidt, Trent Grisham is gone. You can just go ahead and project that, which we've seen situations happen like this before. We saw Yes Network broadcast and say Gleyber Torres is probably on his way out the door. And that had a lot to do with moves that were made prior to that decision. It was obvious. They sort of read the tea leaves and said he's going to be gone. I think that's your result. Trent Grisham and the defense that you see, the Yankees would probably look at it and say, we're going to get mostly that defense back that Grisham provides with Bellinger. Certainly he has a better arm, but you just got to pray that Bellinger either rebounds after a bad season or gives you another good season in center field next year.
Yeah. I mean, I do think they'll probably want Grisham back, but it doesn't give him much choice. My thing is, I'll be honest, I don't think they're going to get Tucker, but I definitely want them to try. But when I heard the Dodgers' interest that came up within the last day or so.
So you think the Dodgers being interested is just like they're going to well, you're assuming the Dodgers are going to be more aggressive than us?
I think the Yankees will be aggressive, but I think they'll be there comfortable, don't want to jump out of my comfort zone level of aggressive.
Okay.
The Dodgers and the Mets are going to have a bidding war for him. That's what I think. And I think the Mets are going to win at the end of the day because I think Cohen was very quiet after Soto. That felt like a long-term plan. It didn't feel like they were trying to win a World Series this year. And they were very quiet. They had a chance to get Fried. They did not. They had a chance to go out and get Corbin Burns. They did not. I think the Mets are going to end up with Kyle Tucker and Juan Soto. I do.
Then who would we go full board for?
I mean, it's the Yankees. So like, they might get another starting pitcher. I don't feel to the point you've made in the past. Why should we feel any sort of way with Cashman? Like, you know what I mean? I understood it. It was justified this past year. Remember I kept saying, it was like after Fried was signed, I liked the move and everything, but the whole idea of everything was, it was pretty mid, right? There wasn't a lot of guys out there that you would pay. Juan Soto was off the board. I thought that they should consider bringing Corbin Burns with Fried when he was still available, but I knew they wouldn't, right? So, that left you to make some trades. And of course they were able to get Goldschmidt later on, but they traded for Bellinger. They traded for Devin Williams. Next year's class should be better, I think, all around. It's not as top heavy as like a Juan Soto, but I think it is better. Like there's more, there's more depth to it. I feel like next year's class, they'll probably look at another starting pitcher. They'll probably get another bat.
Well, I mean, obviously the elephant in the room is that Michael King is a free agent.
Yeah,
but
I think they'll probably end up getting Michael King, and that'll be that. Like, I'm not suspecting a giant offseason. I'm just not.
Well, that's sad.
See, so the Lakers just lost in the first round. So when the Lakers lose in the first round, all hell breaks loose. Now, all of a sudden, Rui Hachimura, all these guys are being talked about being traded, right? Well, that's how the Yankees are supposed to be. The Yankees lost in the World Series, and their idea was, let's just kind of find our way to have a roster that is comparative to one with Juan Soto. They didn't go at see, that's the difference. If the Yankees beat the Dodgers in the world, you don't think the Dodgers would have gone crazy after Juan Soto? I think the Dodgers end up with Juan Soto if they lost the Yankees in the World Series.
I would probably agree with you. So I do think to some degree
there's just
I have a lot
like
of emotions here, but it's just sad that Kyle Tucker, everyone told me, well, the Astros won't ever trade you guys, Kyle Tucker, which I didn't agree with. But
yeah, they would.
Even if, let's just say that was exactly true, to look at a Yankees team, I think majority of the people in our chat would sort of agree, if we had a vote, that this Yankees team is not great, but the division stinks. The AL is not very good. I saw it earlier in the chat. Someone said the Tigers are the class of the American League. If the Detroit Tigers are the class of the AL, what does that tell you? They're certainly deserving of respect. They are. But to say the Detroit Tigers, their big pickup this offseason was Gleyber Torres, who most of our fans were like iffy to bring him back. He doesn't play a lick of defense. He's not fundamental in any way, but he can hit. He had a bad year last year, had a great second half. He hit somewhat in October. That was their big pickup, and the Tigers are the class of the AL. That tells you the AL is really bad. So the Yankees go into free agency. You're saying that Kyle Tucker, who's probably a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, is going to be a free agent, and they're going to possibly not be the most aggressive team after losing Juan Soto to the crosstown rival New York Mets. The Yankees, if they don't get Kyle Tucker this offseason, should be ashamed of themselves. They should look at Kyle Tucker the same way they looked at Bryce Harper. When Bryce Harper became a free agent, they made a mistake not being after this player, not understanding how much this player potentially wanted to play for your organization, having loved the Yankees growing up. You get a second opportunity, a second chance to go after the obvious pickup. The Yankees have to win that. They just have to. And if they don't, obviously I'll be the first person here to criticize that. But I want to retract sort of the mood of this, because I want to remember the Yankees now have just won a series against the A's. I know you told me I can't call them the Sacramento A's because that's not what they are.
I just can't believe they don't have a name.
I can't believe it, but you've mentioned there are teams in other sports who have kind of had this. Kyle Tucker is Hal's redemption signing. I would agree with that. I think a lot of people viewed it, if Juan Soto had returned, this is a way to make up for some of those mistakes you'd made in the past. And the Yankees certainly put up enough money to win that bidding war. They put up a lot of money. 16 years, almost $800 million. So it was a lot.
Yeah,
but you didn't spend a dime unless you win. So let's remember that. But part of our gripe with the past is that the Yankees didn't narrowly lose a bidding war on Machado. They didn't offer $300 million on Harper and then he chose Philadelphia. No, they literally were asking Bryce Harper to take a $200 million deal, $20 million a year. He was never doing that. So really, we didn't even go after the player. So I agree with
Corey Seager either.
Didn't go after Corey Seager. We've got this kid Volpe. So to some degree, you can't go after everybody. We understand that. But the Yankees right now are winning just enough to keep themselves in the conversation permanently. But is being in the conversation enough for Brian Cashman and Hal? That's what we're going to learn. And as time's gone on, it seems like that's enough. Just being a good team, better than the class of the AL East, that's enough. And I feel like everyone just kind of rinse and repeats. We forget how we got there. But, like I said before, the A's, we beat this team. We probably should have swept them. And now we're going into Seattle. And I believe this is our last series that we have on the West Coast. So, or it's a second to last trip. I can't even remember what it was, but we've now got to look at a pitching staff in Seattle that I don't necessarily know if we've got the arms to go toe-to-toe with this team, but we certainly can score better than Seattle can. So I'm interested to see what happens in this, because this Yankees team and all these young players that you're watching, the Dominguez, the Ben Rice, it'll be fun to watch how they adjust to postseason level pitching, because that's what you're about to see.
Yeah, so a few things. Tomorrow, the Yankees are going up against Emerson Hancock. I like their chances. I do.
Who is that? It sounds like he discovered
I was
South
just
America.
Say, it sounds like he was
Emerson
like
Hancock. I have found this land. Wow.
5.70 ERA, a 1.56 WHIP.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Doesn't strike out a lot of guys.
Okay.
Thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate you. So yeah, he doesn't walk a lot of guys, doesn't strike out a lot of guys, but yeah, that's interesting. Real quick though, what I wanted to touch on before that. What are your thoughts? Because I went back and I watched our video, our last episode before the season started. Remember we took that hiatus? The last thing we talked about was you and I both agreed, yes, there are some concerns. He doesn't have a great batting average at Yankee Stadium. But the Yankees need to take advantage of how long this guy's been on the market and sign Alex Bregman. And now he is on the Red Sox at a position that we're talking about potentially trading for somebody at the deadline. Sure. And he's hitting, 314? And he obviously has a glove. And I'm trying not to get annoyed by it because I totally understand. Like, I don't think the Yankees want to deal with Boris as much as they already do. Like, I think they're kind of sick of him at this point, and I get it. But I do feel like getting Bregman, especially because he had that opt-out, getting him for this year made a lot of sense. And I didn't really love the way that they tackled third base. I just kind of went with the flow, but I like the idea of giving Peraza some more burn, but now that he's just back to being that guy, and really it's Oswaldo Cabrera, I like Cabrera as like a member of the organization, homegrown talent, but if you put Alex Bregman in this lineup, how much better do they look? And I just feel like when I'm watching the Red Sox, because I was watching the other day, and I was just like, you watch Bregman, it's kind of frustrating. You know, it really is, because I think people have already forgotten about him, but the Yankees were in that, that pool, and they were being talked about, and they were being connected a lot, and then all of a sudden, no one talked about him anymore with the Yankees, and even with Detroit. And it leads me to believe it was probably Boris related, probably pissed everyone off and ended up signing with the Red Sox. But Gary, what are your thoughts on that before we jump for tomorrow's game?
Okay, so with Alex Bregman, obviously he got $40 million a year. Mm-hmm. And some of this was deferred, so it's not just hitting the books as $40 million. Same way that Ohtani's not hitting for $70 million for 10 years. It's just that's not the way it's working out. But Alex Bregman is a significant upgrade, obviously, over what we have at third base. It's just, that's the way it is. But technically speaking, the best way to get, as we like to say, get good, is not always to just upgrade in terms of what you're spending at every single position. Sometimes in order to run a franchise, especially a team like Hal, where Hal Steinbrenner is saying, no, you've got a budget, and your budget hovers around $300 million. So if we know the owner, like, certainly we can ask him to spend more money, and we've asked him to spend more than the $300 million that he's been spending. And if he doesn't like spending $300 million and losing, well, then you need somebody else to be your GM. But we'll digress there. So you bring in an Alex Bregman. Let's just say they do. Instead of paying $40 million, it's like 20 on the books, right? $20 million you're paying in comparison to what we're spending right now at third base, which is like $1 million. So now you know that is a surplus of $19 million, which swells your payroll by $19 million. So what it means by definition for the Yankees, they're going to get to spend, Brian Cashman is going to get to spend $19 million less in 2025 elsewhere on the roster. And that is the problem with bringing Alex Bregman in. If we just get to spend the money and say, well, the opt-outs are here, the opt-outs are there, we just want the player and we'll spend what we have to spend to win, then yes, I agree there would have been a huge upgrade there. But obviously there's certain things about Bregman being a Yankee as opposed to being a Red Sox that really help him. He's playing at Fenway Park. He's a dead pull hitter. Playing in New York, left field has a ton of space. It's not the same as playing at Fenway. Everyone talks about right field, the short porch. Bregman rarely ever uses that side of the field. So I'm not saying the Yankees should just look at players and be like, if he's a dead pull hitter, he can't play in New York. That's not true. But my understanding of what happened with Bregman and not going after this player meant they were going to spend elsewhere, which they sort of did, And also, this was the great promise that everyone was led to believe. Kyle Tucker is a free agent. No one believes the Cubs are going to re-sign this player. That's a must sign. That's what my understanding was of this. You don't go sign a player to a multi-year deal, $40 million a year. You're not going to go do that? Fine. But you better go win that bid war next offseason with no excuses whatsoever, and we won't make any.
No, I think that's fair. I just, for me, it was more so after the fact, after they had already gotten everybody. Remember? That was the whole point, is that they had already spent all the money. And I guess, that 2026 thing, but I think you can make the argument they easily could have gotten him. I mean, it's $25 million payroll, right? So it's not anything like too crazy. I know they deferred money going back to like 2044, but if that's like $6 million a year.
Do you think Hal would agree to go, let's just say, because we were at $300 million, we were hovering in that ballpark, and there's certain aprons that the Yankees didn't want to go past, so, all right, but you add $20 million to the payroll. Do you believe Hal would have done that?
I believe, you ready for this? I think he would have if Boris was not the agent. I really do believe that the Yankees are tired of dealing with him. There were reports about it. They're sick of him.
That's stupid. I don't like Scott Boras either. But if he's the agent, it's your job to deal with these agents. If he's an asshole or not, it's your job. You can hate people that you work with, that are in your family, and you still got to operate.
Yeah.
You've still got to get things done.
I agree. That's why it's frustrating to me, because I feel like we're sitting here talking about third base, and I remembered, while we were talking about third base, I was like, wait a minute, we were just talking about this before the season, and I had watched that video, and we both thought, they should bring in Bregman, and it was weird because, we know like the baggage it comes with, and the fan base doesn't love him because of everything with Houston, but I don't really care, to be honest with you. Like, I don't care. Like, I thought he would have been a good fit in the Bronx. It's a little frustrating. Plus, I also think a lot of people kind of forgot about that because, Gary, remember all of the push was about getting Arenado? Everyone thought the Yankees were getting Arenado. It was nonstop.
Did they
Arenado.
Really?
Yeah, it was nonstop.
Well, I mean, we would have taken
he and Goldschmidt
Arenado.
Are best friends, right?
Okay.
And so after Goldschmidt signed, it was already being talked about before that. But then Goldschmidt signed, and people were like, oh, well, we're just going to get Arenado, so it's not a big deal. But you end up with neither, and now we're talking about, third base is just kind of, So the reason I bring that up is because DJ LeMahieu is likely going to play second base, but when Jazz Chisholm returns, it's going to be Jazz Chisholm at second and DJ at third. And I'm not overly thrilled about that. But that said, love today. Don't want to take anything away from today's game. We just go into more in-depth conversations, and sometimes, we overshoot even just the game. And we had a lot of stuff to cover, and we had a lot of super chats. We had a lot of comments that we commented on. So, the Yankees are going up against the philosopher Emerson Hancock.
So, I'm sitting here trying to pull up the game on MLB.com, and it's like doing a damn Rubik's Cube to get to the Yankees game, because obviously I want to see who is pitching for us. They won't let me get to this.
Clark Schmidt. I should have told you that.
Well, I mean, it would you know how websites, if you like load in and then it reloads, it moves everything. I can't, for the love of God, I cannot get to the Yankees game. I give up. I'm done.
The Mariners are done dealing with Toronto, though. They are glad to be out of that series. They got mollywopped by Toronto. 6-3, 6-3, 9-1.
Yeah, I saw Bo hit a home run, and he hasn't hit a home run in a while. So
I know. And J.P. Crawford's hitting for average. What is happening this year? He's hitting 282. Their former top prospect. So
wow.
All right, Mariners. I guess quick series preview. We'll get into Profit X and wrap up the show.
Yeah, let's just do the picks, because I mean that in a way
Hancock.
Does preview.
We got Hancock, and then Brian Wu takes on Max Fried. Ooh, that's going to be a good matchup. And then Wednesday, it's our old friend Luis Castillo, the guy that never was, as far as a Yankee, against Will Warren, who's coming off his best outing as a Yankee. So now, told you my friend, big Mariners fan, covered the Mariners, said that that theory about the batter eye. Remember I told you that? He's like, yeah, our starting pitching isn't that good. It's just the batter's eye is that bad in Seattle. And everyone has an issue with it.
Show me the results from the Yankees. Then we'll see. We'll see exactly what's happening. Like if Will Warren looks like Kurt Schilling when he goes out there against Castillo,
I'll turn a blind eye and say, yeah, the batter's eye, there's no issue at all.
Yeah, and obviously we're podcasters, and we're not taking at bats in Seattle. I have no idea. I don't know. I played MLB The Show in Seattle before, and I saw the ball fine. But we have no actual data, and I would be interested to see what players have to say about it because we make a lot of excuses when we lose anyway, so maybe our players will talk about it. You never know.
Okay. Jordan 7 saying Edgar Martinez talked about it in an interview.
Beautiful. That's good information. That's why we do this podcast.
I know. And how do you just know that off the top of your head? That's so awesome. Like you had that ready to go right away. Yeah, you guys are the best. All right.
We're a group of nerds. Our members list should be like Gary and Jake's nerd nest. Because that's what we are. I mean, that's what this podcast is. We're nerds of the game. So, yeah, I mean, that's good information right there. Edgar Martinez, if he says he can't see, and that's a great player right there, if he can't see, then I have a hard time believing that Volpe can see. So, we'll see.
All right, you got me there. Before we get into Profit X real quick, by the way, Freddie Peralta is killing it this year, so keep an eye on him. Deadline. Brewers are 20-21, and they can't win on the road. And then... Okay. I don't know if you saw Sandy Alcantara. The expectation is that he's going to be traded.
Well, he stinks right now anyway. Yeah. So he could be. I don't want him.
I mean, I don't want him either. Coming off that arm injury. Remember I said that, and people were like, "Oh no, it's Alcantara." I don't care.
Why would you trade him now? They're like, "Hey, his ERA is 8."
That's when he came out. They're like, "Oh yeah, now they want to trade him." I'm like, "What? You're idiots."
Oh, now you want to trade this guy? All right. All right, so what are our picks?
Back to the drawing board. Let's see. Refresh. Did we get anything? We did not get anything. Okay. Yankees are winning the ball game tomorrow. Ball club. They're winning a ball club tomorrow.
Who are we pitching? You said Clark?
Clark Schmidt taking on Hancock. I like Schmidt coming off that start. I really like the way he looked. I feel good about him right now. And end of the day, the Yankees just have way more firepower. Than the Mariners. And I don't feel like the Mariners are getting a big boost with their pitching. Like, I don't think Hancock is any good. I mean, he might be. It's a small sample size, but, like, you know, based on what I'm looking at here, you know, he's not a Brian Wu. He's not Luis Castillo. And so I think that bodes well for the Yankees. And I think when you look at, you know, the Mariners, you know, you got some guys, like you got Cal Raleigh, who's going to hit home runs, and you got Jorge Polanco, who has 9 home runs on the year. He's hitting 327, by the way.
I have the perfect picks. I have 3 perfect picks. There's no way.
Also,
there's no way.
There is not a superstar that is more overrated ever than Julio Rodriguez. He's the most overrated player I think I've ever seen in baseball.
You would call him a superstar?
That's what people call him.
He is not even close to a superstar.
They call him J-Rod. They say that he is a superstar. No, Julio Rodriguez, every time I look at this guy, he's batting 220. He's batting 200.
They're like, he's having a down year. Let's see if he can turn it around.
Every year he's having a down year.
If you consistently have a down year, you're just down. That's all he is.
And it's so funny because they're like, well, he's 24. And I was like, that's great. He still isn't like a superstar. Like, I don't know what else you want. Like,
24 is supposed to be like your good years, especially if you've been in the league since you were like 20, 21. You're not supposed to look up at a player and be like, oh, well, he was great when he was 21. And then for some reason, when he was 24, he just was not good at all. He wasn't good at 23 either. So
yeah,
J-Rod is, I wouldn't even call him overrated at this point. I feel like he's like MLB The Show good, where the kids think he's fun to watch. They watched him hit in a home run derby once. Same thing with Jazz. Like, I wouldn't look at Jazz and be like, he's a great player. I look at him as like, there's too many downs. You have some ups. You have the talent. J-Rod's got talent.
He does.
We know that.
He's just not consistent put it together. At all.
Not consistent at all. And if you are consistently inconsistent, you are not good. So yeah, I hope it turns around for him. I won't cover it if he does, but someone can bring it up to me, and certainly I'll put my hand up. But no, to your point, I agree. But by the way, here are the 3 perfect picks. The Yankees are winning. That's our first pick.
Yes.
Our second pick, right? I'm taking the under. If what everyone says is true, the teams can't see, I'm going to believe it. I think Hancock is going to be out of this game immediately, right? And I'm going to assume they're going to have first of all, they have a great bullpen. They're going to use it. The Yankees won't blow this game away. And then Clark will be good. He's a part of this under pick. So I'm taking the under 8.5, and I'm also going to the first 5 innings, and I actually like it for the first time ever, and I'm taking the Yankees money line for the first through the 5th inning.
Oh
the Yankees will be
God,
winning.
We're back.
Yeah,
we're
that
back
thing is
like
back.
We never left. Yeah, no, I like that as well. I am gonna go. It's funny. I don't know why, but in my head just now, I was like, oh, let me see like what the Yankees hit against Hancock. Like, there's no way anybody's ever seen this guy. Like,
this is interesting. I do want to bring this up. Obviously, we can't confirm this, but Anthony, we really appreciate you bringing this and contributing this to the show. I think it's important. So Anthony said, Jim Bowden said, the GM, that they're going to trade for Sandy. Okay. And then he says he doesn't care that he has a slow start. They understand that he's still recovering from injury the first 2.5 months. Now, before I kick this back to you, Jake, because he did say Jake here.
Yeah.
My feeling on it is that you do have to show at least some momentum ahead of the deadline that you are towards a recovery and not just this reclamation project, because that impacts your value and it impacts directly what Miami gets for this player. So we're not saying he won't be traded. I mean, Jake literally brought up that he probably will be, according to sources. But yeah, it's interesting that they would choose to trade a player while literally his value could not be lower.
Yeah, I mean, Alcantara is 29 years old, so it's not like he's this 24-year-old. I feel like everyone kind of assumes he's this super young guy. And because of that and the arm issues, I'm just not willing to give up top dough. And now that he has an 8.42 ERA,
it should take literally 3 packs
whip
of peanut M&Ms to get this player right now. His ERA is almost 9.
Yeah, and I understand the sentiment, like, oh yeah, you know, he's coming back from injury, but I mean, this is a guy that had an ERA in 2023 of a 4.14, and I feel like people are just looking at that 2022 season, and just kind of assuming he can do that, and it's like, that would be nice if he could, and I'm not saying he can't, because he had 6 complete games that year. He pitched 228 innings, right? And, you know, this guy had 207 strikeouts, but a 2.28 ERA, right? That is not who he's been the last 3 years. The last 3 years, you have 2023, he had a 4.14 ERA. 2024, he was recovering from injury. In 2025, he has an 8.42 ERA. It's not like the recovery that freaks me out. Gary, it's who he was right before the injury, which he already seemed like he was kind of going downhill.
Yeah, and he's not this ace. I mean, like Jack Flaherty last year.
Well, like Miami has these guys all the time. Remember Pablo Lopez was like this top prospect, and now like Lopez is good. But it's like, do you notice this is a pattern with Miami? Miami, they're master marketers. They will have people believing their ace is the greatest pitcher in the league. Right? Every time.
Yeah, I don't know if people think they're the greatest, but I think the value technically when you see a player who's an outlier, everyone just assumes not only is Miami probably going to trade this guy, they always do, but not only that, he is a Tommy John guy. Thank you, Jordan. Says they're like, hey, they're going to trade this player and they're not going to get the right value for him. Luis Arias, they're going to trade him. What in the hell did they get for him? Nothing. They get nothing. They don't ever win the trade. They don't ever get hardly anything back. Like, I think Agustin Ramirez, them having gotten him back was the best thing they have ever gotten via trade. Not even close. So I'm proud of them for doing that, and that's great. But you don't wait till your damn house catches on fire the roof's falling through the floor, and then you go, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is put the house up on the market. No, you put it up on the market when it's ready for staging. Sandy Alcantara is not ready for staging. He's not performing. So you can trade him if you want to. You don't want to pay a guy $10 million, and maybe the Yankees take a flyer on that. Maybe the Red Sox do. I saw that earlier in the chat. Well, I personally, for an organization that hasn't won a title in 16 years, for them to ever look the way of a player who's not even showing a trend towards recovery or performance in general, I don't want that. So you mentioned Lopez earlier. Yeah, Pablo Lopez, that's probably a player. Is it Pablo? Who is it again? In Minnesota?
Pablo Lopez. That was the guy that the Yankees tried to get.
I look his way if Minnesota falls off a cliff, which they certainly can. They have the capabilities. And if Detroit runs away with it, you can turn around and go after that player. That I would be excited for. But yeah, there's just no way. If Alcantara's traded, Miami's a fool.
I'm telling you, Edward Cabrera, the way they sold him, he was going to be this, remember? Like, oh yeah, he's going to be really good. Remember Connor Gillespie?
No, one of them did work out. Don't forget this one. The dude in Philadelphia right now, left-hander.
Oh, God.
What's his name again, guys? I forgot, and I should know this.
I feel like people get Alcantara confused with him because that's the guy that the Yankees would have been. I forget his name. I know who you're talking about.
What is his name? Hey, chat, we need your help here. I could Google it. It could be very easily found, but it'll be here at some point.
I cannot remember his name, but I'm going to. I am going to. No, I'm not. I'm going to look it up. Luzardo.
Jesus Luzardo.
And
we'll throw you up on screen because anytime you do some work on this podcast, you absolutely deserve some recognition.
Yes,
so thank you for doing so. And
27
Jake, we got
years
anything
of
else?
age, by the way.
How old?
27 years old. So 2 years younger than the guy with arm issues. He has a 2.11 ERA. He's 3-0, and he's got a 1.2 WHIP.
Okay, so I mean, there was some talent there. I mean, he's a left-handed arm, sinker baller, good stuff, great slider, great changeup.
That's the guy.
It's working.
Like, I don't know. Marlins. There was another dude who I can't remember his name, but the Marlins always have. It's like their bread and butter is like, yeah, we're gonna have all these starters that we market well, and we'll be able to trade. And then if we don't trade them, they'll do nothing. And
I think their plan is we're gonna use this as a factory. We're gonna build up a young player, and then when they're good, we're going to trade that young player and finesse an organization for like 3 players that all are going to pan out for us. And they think they're going to win like 2 or 3 trades. And then before you know it, you turn around and go, oh, look at them. They've got 8 good players. It never works. It's a lie and a fabrication by general managers across baseball. A ton of GMs do this. They're like, that guy, they're like, screw that guy. He thinks he's getting $300 million. He's a bum. Look how much money he's making us pay him. They'll trade him away like a Giancarlo Stanton, which is ridiculous. They just get rid of the player, and then someone else gets to enjoy him. And then they bring in talent, and they're like, we're going to make it work with this. Those players never work. Hardly ever. And they definitely don't for the Marlins. So, yeah, I don't like this.
Are what people think the Marlins are. The White Sox were able to trade away Cease, and they had Crochet. Those are 2 pitchers that are astronomically better than anything that the Marlins have had since Fernandez. I'm not even kidding you.
Yeah, there's no reason to believe in them. So they're going to trade him at some point. Alcantara is too highly paid given the production. So I think the Marlins are going to decide to get rid of him. There's going to be a team out there that says, I need pitching, and it's probably going to be the Red Sox. There's maybe 2 or 3 other teams in the business where you say they really need an arm, but also they've got a good system that they don't want to give up anything, but they severely need a resurgence from somebody. You're talking a literal definition of a flyer, which is hard to believe that Alcantara is a player that's now a flyer because it's entirely predicated on injuries, and that sucks. But yeah, Jake, we got anything else to add that involves the Yankees and not this poverty Miami Marlins franchise?
I actually had a feeling you were going to be aggressive at the end of that. Be like, poverty. Like, no, it's funny.
Stink. Yeah, the Orioles. The Orioles are the... Chat, you figured it out. The Baltimore Orioles are getting Alcantara. It's settled.
Yeah, guaranteed. And then they'll be like, see, we replaced... They'll be like, see, we replaced Corbin Burns finally. It's like, no, you didn't. No,
all
you
right.
didn't.
So Rocky Sullivan says agreed. Everyone knows he's still working his way back from Tommy John surgery. So let the Baltimore Orioles take that flyer. He'll have like 2 starts. They're going to say, look, his ERA is 3.25 in his last 2 starts.
This is Minesweeper, but you've already seen the board, and you're still picking the mine. That I'm just saying. Like,
well, the Orioles are in last place, so they can take him. That's fine.
Oh, it's all a conspiracy. Based on what I see on the board, I don't actually buy the Minesweeper. All right. You hit that. You hit the mine. We'll see if it works out for you, buddy. Like I said, Freddie Peralta is the best. If he is available, there's not a better fit than Freddie Peralta at the deadline. Remember, I said that from the Brewers.
I will remember it. We're not going to forget. Our chat won't forget either. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, he's just not the guy that's constantly talked about because, like I said, no one markets better than the Marlins. Anyway, we move on. Yankees money line. You took the run line in the first 5 innings.
I took the run line for the Yankees in the first 5 innings. I took the under 8.5. And I took the Yankees to win straight up.
Okay, yes. And then dingers for the road.
Which I got exactly right. I said Ben Rice was going to hit a home run today, and he nailed it. I said he was going to hit 2, so that's my mistake. He hit leadoff.
I'm done picking outliers.
Oh, you're cold? You're leaving the table?
Yeah, I mean, B-Boss was so close on that fly out to right field, I think it was.
All right.
Not really.
So Hancock he's a right-hander, so we can just do the math there. Reyes will not sniff the field tomorrow, and
if he does, he won't be on the team.
It's nuts.
He's gone.
Okay.
They'll get rid of him for LeMahieu.
Okay. So the guy who's going to hit a home run tomorrow is actually going to be
I am curious about this because
well, Judge and Cabrera are actually going to hit home runs tomorrow, so that's interesting. So I actually have a twofer. So
you have Cabrera hitting a home run tomorrow.
I do.
Really?
Yep. In large part because it's not about Cabrera necessarily. It's the fact that he knows he's playing tomorrow. At least he should be, based on how Boone likes to use him. He's showing up. He will not be paid a lick of attention to. He'll be sitting at the bottom of the lineup. B-Boss also probably plays. Yeah, Cabrera's hitting a bomb.
I'm going to go with the guy who has an over 1,000 OPS against the Mariners for his career. I'm going to say Jason Dominguez goes yard again.
Okay, 2 knocks today. Ride the momentum. I love it.
Yeah, why not? Ride the wave. So we got B-Boss, Jose Reyes. No.
Jose Reyes.
I meant Pablo Reyes. Good Lord. I'd rather have Jose Reyes, even if he is like 50 now. Anyway, so Jason Dominguez. We got, who else do you have? You have Cabrera?
Yeah, it's just Cabrera. And I said Judge is going to hit a homer, but he's not going to be my pick. I'm taking Cabrera.
Yeah, Judge isn't fun because it's like,
no.
You know, I nailed it. The best hitter of our generation hit a home run. Ooh, crown me king. No. But no, Jason Dominguez, I'll tell you, if Jazz was playing tomorrow, I would not pick him to get a hit. He has an 0.77 batting average against Seattle for his career.
So he can't see in Seattle.
No, you can't see a lick. 385 OPS. In 3 games, that's 13 at bats, dude.
Jazz is Keller out there. Good Lord.
I mean,
he can't. 0.77. How many at bats is that?
That's 13. So you want 1 for 13?
That's terrible.
Aaron Judge, by the way, has a 364 batting average and a 1,300 OPS against Seattle.
Yeah, we won't pick him. He's the obvious choice.
Yeah,
he's seeing Hancock
definitely.
tomorrow, so it's still a big leaguer. It's tough to hit regardless. So yeah, let's wrap the show. This show's about longer than Lincoln.
Oh my
longer
God.
than the movie Lincoln.
Oh, you scared me. I looked up. I was like, wait, Lincoln was like 3 hours.
It was literally 3 hours now.
No. Anyway, we appreciate you guys. Been a fun show as always. Did we ever touch on this by Apex?
We definitely did not.
Okay. Do you keep Williams or cut him loose? Hopefully Apex is still here to see this. I mean, it really depends on how he finishes the season. If Williams turns it around, I'm bringing back Devin Williams, no doubt.
Okay, well, so here's my answer. I think this is going to be short and sweet. I think the Yankees do a decent enough job of getting a decent output out of their bullpen. And they're from time to time, you're going to say they need more in their pen. They don't get more. And then you look up at the end of the season, and the large reason of why they lose is either starting pitching or they don't have enough offensive depth. I spend all the money that I'm spending on Devin Williams on offensive talent this offseason. I do. I prioritize bats. I let Devin Williams go. You need to develop somebody at some point. And if there's anywhere I trust development, it's throwing somebody in the bullpen, not in the 9th inning, but in the 7th or 8th inning, where Devin Williams, essentially his role is going to be this year. So no, Apex, I let Devin Williams go. It's nothing personal. I like the guy. I don't have any problem with him, but I'm not paying $10 million plus multi-year contract to bring a guy back to pitch the 7th. It's not happening.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I just need to see how the rest of the season goes. If he keeps this up, I mean, you know, if he were like to end the season with a 9 ERA, yeah, I'm out on him. But if he looks like he's supposed to look, then yeah, I'd be down to bring him back. But I totally get your point as well. And if for whatever reason that hinders bringing back, whether that bringing in a Kyle Tucker or bringing back a Paul Goldschmidt, if they want to go that route, then yeah, I mean, I'm choosing those guys over him any day. But if they are willing and it's separate from those guys, yeah, I'd be down to bring him back if he produces. So that
Apex is probably already in REM sleep right now. He's already to bed.
We appreciate you guys. That's going to do it. Be sure to hit Yankees U in the app or on the website. Type it in, Yanks U, and over on Profit X. And yeah, you can follow our picks again. We got the Yankees winning. We got the Yankees run line in the first 5 innings. And we got the under. And we went with home runs. Gary has 2. Or no, 1. You went with Cabrera.
Yeah, technically
I went with Dominguez.
I said Judge is going to hit a homer.
Oh, Judge is definitely hitting a homer.
Cabrera is going to hit the home run. That's my real pick. That's the one that I'm actually going off on a limb on. So hit on Rice today. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Sounds good. And our friend Alex here has the perfect comment suggestion. Movie suggestion, Hancock, featuring Will Smith.
So if you were here an hour and 42 minutes into the pod, you're a real one.
Yes.
Drop Hancock and actually add featuring Will Smith in there, so we know you were here at the end of this podcast.
Yes, that's true. And also, like the video.
Oh, heck yeah.